Hello there. Fridays with Father. It's Black Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving. So, more importantly, happy Thanksgiving to every one of you, and I hope you had a very pleasant time, an enjoyable time. I hope that you overate, and you had a wonderful time with your family. To be honest, since coming to this country, that has been my favorite holiday of all. The main reason being is that it's not commercialized. It doesn't involve presents. And when I was living in the city, I noticed that the quietest day of all in the city was Thanksgiving. Well, here in Schaumburg, it's always quiet. But in the city, you noticed a big difference. And I thought, it's like the city has stopped for Thanksgiving. Of course, with the pandemic, when we had the sort of shelter in place ordinance, the lockdown, it was very quiet then. And that's the only other time I've known the city of Chicago to be quiet. But I like Thanksgiving for that. It's a time when you gather with people, you share, and there's a certain expression, I think, of gratitude for who we are and what God has made us to be. And it's a good time to sort of count our blessings, which is what you do. And we eat lots of nice food. So, yes, I ate some pumpkin pie yesterday, and I ate some turkey, and I'm probably going to eat some more of it today as well. But very, very nice. So happy Thanksgiving to you. As you know, when I last spoke, I was on retreat and then coming back, getting back up into the running of things here, catching up as it were. Before I went, I told you that one of the things I was taking with me to read during my retreat was the Book of Tobit, and maybe you wondered, well, why is he doing that, and one of the main reasons why I'm doing that is I did that was because I always feel that the Book of Tobit has a great sense of gratitude for what God does for us in our life and in the world, and you may not be familiar with Tobit. It's in the Old Testament, and it's only 14 chapters long, but it's a great story. So I took that. So I just wanted to say a few things about the Book of Tobit as we're in that Thanksgiving mode. So anyway, I took Tobit with me. At least I thought I did. I downloaded onto my Kindle a standard revised version of the Bible to take with me to the monastery. And I had my Kindle with me. When I opened it up, I was looking for the Book of Tobit to read, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. And then I realized, I thought, this is one of those Bibles that doesn't recognize the Book of Tobit, because you see, not all denominations recognize the Book of Tobit as being one of the books of the Bible. Many Protestant denominations, and certainly the Jews, don't include it in their canon, as they call, of books. But us Catholics do. So I'd sort of inadvertently downloaded the wrong kind of Bible. So anyway, in the monastery, there was a version of the Bible in Spanish because I was in a monastery in northern Spain. And so I read the Book of Tobit in Spanish, which was fine, But just for you to know, that the Book of Tobit is included in Catholic Bibles, but not in other Bibles. And the reason why, I don't know. But maybe it's because we as Catholics like a good story. And Tobit is a good story. It tells us about this man, Tobit, who's a good man, a very heartfelt man, But he suffers quite a bit in his life, and it's not so much he complains about his lot, but he feels he must be a really bad person because he has all these kind of afflictions which assail him. And then suddenly, to cap it all, he goes blind, He goes blind and he thinks, this is the end for me. I can't take any more of this, I'm so sorry for all my sins, Lord, just kill me now. I want to die, I want to die. So he starts, in some ways, starting to put his things in order, is ready for his death. So, he sends his son off, Tobias, to another land, to where he's got family, and where his money, his inheritance is in sort of safekeeping with. And so he sends his son to go to the other part of the family and to get the money to bring it back for him, so he has some inheritance for his son. And so while the while the son is on the journey to this part of the family to collect the money, he gets attacked by a rather large fish. Yes, I know, it's all a bit weird, but he gets attacked by a fish, and the person who saves him from the fish is this person who's known to him as being Azariah, but actually, in fact, it is Saint Raphael, the archangel, nonetheless. And so then Azariah remains with Tobias on the rest of his journey, and he helps Tobias to go and get the money. First of all, he defeats the fish, and then he removes certain parts of the body of the fish to keep, because they have powerful healing powers to them. So he hangs on to them, and then with Azariah they go to the family, and where Tobias meets the daughter of this family, who's very beautiful, and the father would like Tobias to marry her, but the girl is cursed because she's had 7 husbands, and every husband has died on the wedding night. I know there's a bit of humor in this too. So, but Raphael has this big trick, you see. He said, if you take this part of the body of the fish and you burn it around the room on the night of the wedding, you won't die, and it'll break the curse. So this is all happening now while Tobias is going to put his father's things in order. So Tobias marries the girl, I forget the girl's name, and on the wedding night they burn the bit of the fish, and the aroma keeps the demons away, and the curse is broken, and the couple are delighted and happy, and they make this lovely prayer of thanksgiving and praise, and they're thanking God in all of this. And then they get the money, and then they move back to the land where Tobit is blind and not so much despairing, but thinking, it's time for me to die. And then through the help of Raphael, they take the other part of the body of the fish, and they manage to heal Tobit of his eyesight, his blindness, so he can see again. And so the scales fall off from his eyes, and he sees what a wonderful thing, has happened to him, and he's praising God. Another nice big prayer of praise and thanksgiving. And it's at that moment, you see, that Azariah, who is the angel Raphael, reveals himself, that he's in fact not just any old Azariah, he's an angel of God who's been sent by God to help them and to heal them and to make them happy. And that's exactly what Raphael did for them. And so everybody's over the moon and thinking it's wonderful. And it's one of those happy tales, But what it really talks about, I suppose, is that, how God is at work in our lives, in our midst, in the most difficult of circumstances. And we shouldn't give up. And that God is ministering always to bring us healing, strength, and joy, even when things seem to be really down, So I like the Book of Tobit for that, and I think it's very appropriate for Thanksgiving because it helps us to count our blessings and to realize just how fortunate and blessed we are, even when we think we're not. And is the parting words from Raphael to Tobit are, make sure you write down these wonderful deeds. Make sure you write down these wonderful deeds. In other words, make sure you do not forget, just how good God has been to you in your life. It's wonderful, isn't it? And so anyway, I read this as part of my retreat, and it filled my heart with joy, and I'm probably going to read it again because there's little bits in it which are funny. It's a good story. It's a bit, fantasy with the massive fish, and a bit magical with the bits of the fish and all that. And then it's got an angel. It's the only book of the Bible that really formally introduces us to the archangel Raphael. So take a look when you get a chance. But it's got a great message for us at Thanksgiving, and that is, make sure we write down all these wonderful deeds that God has done for us. sometimes if we don't write things down, we forget them, right? We easily forget them. It's easier to remember the bad stuff, harder to remember the good. So that's why Raphael says, write them down. And so therefore, the Book of Tobit was written. Now, let's be under no illusions. It is a sacred book of the Bible, but it's not intended to be historical. It's fictionalized. And yet, historically, the placement geographically of where it happened and all the different places with the people were all accurate. So it's like half fiction, half historical. It's called a midrash book, they say in the Bible. And us Catholics, we hold it to be a sacred book because it speaks to us from the Word of God, or it is the Word of God to us. So take a look at Tobit when you get chance, and I might even talk about him again. Anyway, so that's Thanksgiving. The other thing I was going to mention is Saint of the Week. There you are. Very briefly, this past, I think it was Monday, was the feast of Saint Cecilia. Absolutely love Saint Cecilia. She's wonderful. Patron saint of musicians. I prayed for all of our musicians here in the parish. And when we were in seminary, it was the day when the heating went on. So we used to have a party. So we've always celebrated Saint Cecilia. Just to remind you of her, she was one of the early martyrs. Her name is still featured in the first Eucharistic prayer of the Mass, along with 6 other women, very holy women. And she was a young girl who was betrothed to a Roman man, and she didn't want to get married, and she didn't want to consummate the marriage, and she wanted to keep her virginity. So she told her husband that, and he agreed to it. And it was through Saint Cecilia that he got baptized, and then through his faith that his brother became baptized, and the faith spread. Now, all of this was during the times when faith in Jesus Christ was persecuted and people were being killed because of it, murdered and tortured. And so eventually it all caught up with them, and they all got put to death. They were all martyrs. But they did so with great grace and with great joy, and Cecilia particularly. It was said, at the time when she was being executed, heavenly music could be heard. Okay, so that Jesus was with her in all of those things. So we honor Saint Cecilia in that special way. Part of the reason why I'm mentioning Saint of the Week, Saint Cecilia, is that one of our dear parishioners, Cecilia Klenowski, she made me some cake. Well, she made me a cinnamon streusel, and I'm slowly eating it. Well, not so slowly because it's really nice. I've been eating it today and yesterday. It's a really nice thing. But Saint Cecilia, to let you know that I prayed for you on Saint Cecilia's Day, and anybody else by that name. You got a good saint's name. But our Cecilia from our parish, Klenowski, is a great baker. She makes really, really good bread pudding. The kind of bread pudding that is so decadent it's almost sinful. I'm kidding. No, it's beautiful. And so you're very kind in giving me this cinnamon streusel, which goes really, really well with coffee, or anything for that matter. Okay? So, anyway, I was Saint Cecilia, my saint of the week, virgin and martyr from the early centuries of the church. My final point is that this is Thanksgiving, but this coming weekend now, we move into Lent. We move into, no. Oh my gosh, I'm getting ahead of myself. We're not going into Lent. We're going into Advent, okay? Now, Advent for me is, I always think it's the wishing and hoping and praying time. Remember that song by Dusty Springfield? I think it was her. Wishing and hoping and praying, etc. Wishing and hoping and praying. It's that time when we start to sort of wish and long and hope for better things. Wish and long and hope that Jesus will come and save us and put everything right, And I was just thinking about that as we were in Advent, sorry. This time last year, right? We were in the pandemic, as we are now. But, sorry, but we had no vaccine. We were hoping and praying for a vaccine, and it would come soon, and that was a big prayer during Advent, I think, for most of us. So things were much darker a year ago than they are today, because since then there's been a vaccine, and many of us have been vaccinated not once or twice, but even 3 times. And the protocols have loosened themselves a little bit. And so whilst we're now in that stage whereby we're still wishing and hoping and praying that we can stop wearing masks to church, right? That we can sort of get back to normality in some way. Things have happened. God has been good, and God has kept to his promises, and Jesus is still there for us and with us, and we're still here to be able to sing God's praises at all times and in all things. So as we move into Advent in the coming weeks, I invite you all, please, to join me to wish and to hope and to pray, a la Dusty Springfield, so that Jesus will come and will set us free from all our afflictions and bring us peace and bring us joy, not just at Christmas time, but, for the rest of our lives and for the whole of eternity. So that's my initial thought on Advent as we move into it this coming weekend. Okay, so I probably talked enough now, and I know that many of you, or some of you maybe, are daring to go shopping on this Black Friday. Good luck with that. I'll be sat reading an improving book and preparing my homily for Sunday. Okay, so thanks for being with us, and thanks for your support of our parish. Once again, happy Thanksgiving and a joyful Advent, and we'll be seeing each other. In the meantime, be joyful, keep the